Welcome to Data Engineering for Everyone. Uh, I'm your host, Nilian Singh, and today we have an exceptionally exciting episode lined up for you. We are venturing into the heart of Microsoft innovative data orchestration platform, Microsoft Fabric. And guess what? We are not doing it alone. We are having a very distinguished guest for today, Ian Clarke, a Microsoft Global Black Belt who breathes, lives Microsoft Fabric day in, day out. His profound expertise is going to guide us through the nuances and capabilities of Microsoft Fabric. Welcome to the show, Ian, and looking forward to hear about Microsoft Fabric from you.
Thank you very much, Nilendra. Thanks very much. It's an honor to be here on your vlog. We've worked together a few times before, and it's always been a pleasure. Just a quick introduction. I'm Ian Clarke. Probably the coolest job title in Microsoft Global Black Belt, covering analytics across the Europe, Middle East, and Africa region. That includes everything: big data, data warehousing, data strategies like data hub, data fabric, data mesh. Within Azure, that means everything from HD Insight, Databricks, Synapse, and of course the platform everybody is so excited about, Microsoft Fabric.
That's great. That's great. I think it's the right time for everyone to hear about Microsoft Fabric, who is kind of playing with it every day, right? And so basically, in this collaboration video, we have a lot to cover. And I know our audience are eager to learn from your expertise. But before we jump into the nitty-gritty, and before we jump into the slide deck, the demos and all, what exactly is the most attractive thing you liked about Microsoft Fabric?
Simplicity. I think that's what it's all about. If you think about traditional analytics platforms, they're usually a mishmash of technologies from various vendors, and you spend a lot of time integrating them. The overhead, the admin overhead before you even start getting any value for the data is can be costly, time consuming. It delays your return on investment. So with Fabric, we're following a concept called 5 by 5, which means 5 seconds to turn it on and 5 minutes to wow. And it genuinely is that quick. And you demonstrated how this is in front of Microsoft Build Ireland. You just go into your Power BI platform, tenant, turn on Fabric. It's literally commissioned within seconds. Out of the box, you get a data lake, you get ETL tools, Spark tools, data warehousing tools, real-time analytics. You get all of your data science and AI suites. You get Power BI, all the visualizations. You get all of that, turned on, fully integrated with zero configuration required within seconds.
So in very simple terms, the simplicity is the thing what you really liked about Fabric, right? Because I think, and even I'm working in, I worked in Microsoft, and I used Fabric, and I used pre-Fabric, your ADFs and all. I really like the same thing, because and we will deep dive into it. It's software as a service. You do not need to worry about the configuration, and that's 5 by 5 thing. You will show it to the audience today, right? So before further ado, I will give the stage to you. I'll keep bugging you in between, so don't mind, and I'll give the stage to you. You can share whatever you guys want, whatever you want, and let's see how to what is in your kitty today to show to our audience.
Okay. Let me just give the audience a little bit of a warning. A word of sympathy out to everybody living in County Cork at the moment with the flooding. But the weather's really bad, so my connection is a little bit dodgy. So if I'm a little bit flickery from time to time, please forgive me. So just to go back to May this year. Microsoft Build. Satya Nadella, in his keynote speech, referenced the announcement of Microsoft Fabric as the biggest announcement in the data space that Microsoft have made since they released SQL Server.
Yeah.
Now, SQL Server goes back, what, 20 odd years, 25 years or so now, 26 years, that's something like that. And everybody has used it. You know what I mean? It's the back end, so many critical applications worldwide. You know, I've built my career practically on SQL Server. You know, it's so important to so many people. And to, you know, so to put Fabric up there at that level just demonstrates where Microsoft's investment and strategy is going. You know, we've been in the space for a long time. We work with a lot of the biggest organizations around the world, all the way down to the smallest organizations as well. The one thing that everybody is asking for is that simplicity. You know, organizations want to spend less time plugging things together, less time evaluating products, and trying to find best in breed and plugging them all together. This is, you know, so to just move beyond that, have confidence that you are price optimized, you are performance optimized, and you can just focus on your data and taking value from your data. I think that's just that, you know, I can't accentuate how important that is to redirect your efforts towards actually getting value from your information rather than thinking about just building a technical solution.
Yeah. And I think I have seen the slide deck what you have presented and built, because we presented together. And one slide which I like a lot is any chief data officer don't want to be a chief integration officer. So see, I have no doubt that Microsoft is having everything in its bucket, from data integration, data ingestion, data visualization, data cleaning, Spark, Snaps, everything. But one thing what I really felt like, obviously, see, we are kind of experts, so we know how to integrate, how to go into the nitty-gritty of the platform. But if it's a newbie who's starting his data engineering journey in Azure, it's too much to learn. From where to start, which tools to use. And I think this is what Fabric is bringing to the table. Even a simple person who just knows Spark, he can start his journey. That's what I'm thinking. That okay,
that's
data.
Exactly it. It's inclusive. You know, it's a platform for every person in your organization. It's not, you know, it's not a hardcore engine. Okay, it can meet the expectations of your hardcore engineers, but you know, it's not a tool for a bunch of engineers in a dark room to focus on. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's a tool that every person in your organization can engage with. And look, I mean, that simplify slide, you know, we've used that in a few presentations now. But when I was presenting that at Microsoft Build, I actually knew a CDO in a global organization headquartered in Ireland who had left the business for exactly that reason. He'd been spending all of his time trying to figure out how to integrate platforms rather than getting the value. So it is, you know, it's not hubris. It is actually it's a huge headache for CDOs everywhere. So yeah, I mean, look, one of the challenges with analytics over the years is that it has been a centralized pipeline and centralized set of resources to deliver analytics requirements, and that bottleneck drives data silos. So within your finance team, for example, you'd have maybe SaaS solutions or maybe a bunch of Excel workbooks or something where people are pulling data from source systems and, you know, applying their own logic, building their own visualizations, and, you know, sharing them through presentations and board meetings and stuff like that. And they're not coming from your single version of the truth, your enterprise data warehouse. So, you know, that centralization of resources drives the creation of those independent silos. So again, Fabric is a place for those business teams to build their analytics, but within, you know, the whole ecosystem of the organization's analytics. So you don't lose track of where that data goes.
So I think Microfabric is not just another data orchestration tool. It's a solution that empowers the organization to streamline their data workflows, ensuring that the right data lands at the right place at the right time. And I think, see, enough talking. Let's see what exactly it is, and a lot of people have already seen it, but I want to show them from the lens of the technical, at the same time, make that technical thing simple so anybody can understand. So let's jump to the your whatever you want to show, just to make sure that we see, we kind of have a look into it from your lenses, your glasses.
My glasses are very thick as well. Okay, so there are multiple concepts within Fabric. There's lots and lots of capabilities within Fabric. And because it is obviously a platform that's supposed to appeal and be accessible by everyone within your organization, you need to kind of try and simplify it so that you're not presenting, you're not hitting every user with every single capability and making it confusing for them. So the way we're doing that is through the concept of experiences. So you can filter the capabilities to your to the personas within your organization.
Okay.
Let me just share my browser here. I'll introduce you to Microsoft Fabric.
Okay. Now the exciting news starts.
Okay, so this will look quite familiar to everyone. This is, Power BI, but and that's basically Microsoft Fabric is being built on Power BI. This is your landing page within Fabric. It is evolving all the time. So, I mean, this is still in preview, it's public preview. It will be GA in a period of time, not too long from now. So landing here, you kind of these icons basically roughly align to the personas or the experiences within Fabric. If you click on the bottom left-hand corner here as well, you can see them listed out. So Power BI, where I just started there, that's just full Power BI.
So what are, sorry to interrupt you, I will keep interrupting you throughout the video,
that's
right?
interrupt away.
So basically, what are these? Like, I can see Power BI, Data Factory, Activator, Engineering. Aren't the same products what Microsoft already have, or they are something new? Because I already know Power BI. I have worked in Data Factory. I'm using data engineering in Synapse day in, day out. I have working in Azure ML data science, data warehouse. So what are these icons? Aren't these the same thing? They just plugged into the platform and you're ready to go? Like, what is new?
That's right. I mean, so these are mature products.
Okay.
These are, look, we've been in the analytics space for a long, long time now. We've got a lot of, products that have matured and evolved into best of class, and so we want to leverage that legacy there. So a lot of this technology is proven, mature, but what we've done is just simplified it. So instead of having to plug it all in, it's all done for you. It all comes out of a single bill, for example. It's all highly integrated. Just all, it's just, it just works out of the box. So yeah, Power BI. Look, it's been by far the visual, business intelligence visualization leader in the Gartner surveys for the past number of years. It's built a huge community, and nearly 500,000 tenants, I think. And many more users than that. So each tenant has, could be thousands of users. So it's a huge popular platform. Obviously that evolved from analysis services before it as well, which is around for a long time. So, it brings that kind of interactive speed of thought experience, helping you explore your data in a very interactive way. Data Factory then, we've got a few flavors of this already in Azure. So we've got Azure Data Factory with mapping data flows. We've got Synapse pipelines, which is again the same code base as Azure Data Factory. So again, we're integrating this in here as well. But you know, if you're in Azure, if you want an Azure Data Factory, you need to go through the Azure Workspace and Marketplace and add Azure Data Factory to a specific subscription, to a region, and so on. You just turn on Fabric and you get it. It's done.
So you do not need to configure any integration runtime. You do not need to configure anything. That's great.
No. So I mean, well, there are nuances there. So obviously, when you need compute on-prem, you know that's usually when you would use a self-hosted integration runtime. But what we're leveraging here is what already comes with Power BI. So you have your on-prem data gateway for that purpose.
Okay.
But it, you know, so yeah, like if you think about trying to size your integration runtime and everything, you know, this is all much more simple. Synapse Data Engineering leverages Synapse Spark that was introduced with Synapse. You know, it's open source Spark, so all of the Spark libraries and everything that have evolved over the years can all be leveraged within Synapse Data Engineering. But we also bringing, you know, what's also unique about Synapse Spark is .NET. So you know, the typical languages you would use in Spark would be Python, Scala, Java, you know, Spark SQL. You can leverage all of those as well, but if you actually prefer C#, you can use C# as well. So that's quite unique there. What is new to that Synapse Data Engineering though is the introduction of the Lakehouse. We had a flavor of this in Synapse in serverless SQL pools, but again, it's just evolved and more simplified here within Synapse Data Engineering. So the Lakehouse concept, which is, you know, providing a SQL endpoint and a SQL type relational experience over a data lake. So that's highly integrated there into the engineering experience. Synapse Data Science. This is going to evolve a lot more over the next few months as well. But basically, this is the integration of Azure Machine Learning, which is our, you know, code first advanced data science suite, you know, again based on notebooks. But we're also going, you know, you will also see the integration of our democratized AI suite. It used to be called cognitive services, now called AI services. So, you know, you've got a whole host of, you know, vision recognition and lots of really, really cool tooling there. They're all going to be embedded here as first-party services. Synapse Data Warehouse, then obviously, this is TSQL, Transact SQL. So this is what people are used to building their data warehouses in SQL Server and in the Synapse over the years. That's in there as well. The main difference there is the separation of the complete separation of compute and storage. So in the Synapse dedicated SQL pool, for example, you've got, you know, you can scale up and down compute, but you're always storage is always on a 60 node distribution architecture. So that is kind of inflexible, and that can be a barrier to smaller data warehouses because you need to have enough data to benefit from the distribution across those storage distributions. Within Fabric, that goes away. So we've got a new concept called one lake and one copy, and I'll come to those later because they are kind of a game changer.
Okay, that sounds great. So, and might be this question is from everyone, right? So this data warehouse, Synapse Data Warehouse, is different from the dedicated SQL pool, what we had already. Like the storage format and everything has been changed behind the scene for this persona, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, let me come to that a little bit later. You know, One Lake is a game changer. You know, it's going to help optimize costs, optimize performance, you know, and deliver, you know, a more consolidated experience, you know, for all compute. And it is a bit of a game changer.
Okay.
The real-time analytics, then, you know, if you think about within Azure, you've got IoT, you know, IoT Hub, you've got Event Hubs, you've got Stream Analytics, you've got Azure Data Explorer with the Custo engine. So Synapse Real-Time Analytics leverages all of that mature products that we bring. Event Hubs in, we bring the Custo Data Explorer in, and again, just wrap them all up so they're fully integrated, and they can run off the same copy of data as the data warehouse and the Lakehouse as well. So it helps you, you get real-time insights off the same set of data. The one piece here that is kind of will look totally new to the public is Data Activator. This is it's not new to Microsoft. We've been using this internally for a number of years because we are obviously a manufacturer ourselves. We build laptops and other peripheral devices, so we need to manage our own supply chains, even for our data centers and everything as well. So Data Activator, it's building on something we call Reflex internally, but it's basically this monitors your data for triggering events. Let me put it this way: imagine, think about the traditional way you would use an analytics platform. You have your ETL running overnight, you load data, shape it for analytics. You then depend on somebody coming in to work in the morning and opening a report, interpreting the data in that report correctly, and then performing the correct action based on that. So they could come in the morning and find that stock level of a particular material is low, and they need to turn to another system and order new stock. That process itself is open to error, what that person is ill on that day, or what if they ordered a wrong product, for example. You know what I mean? There's several steps there that are open to error. So this is closing that entire circle. So what this does is watch for specific patterns in your data, and it doesn't need to be basic whole number KPI type, triggers. It could be trends or whatever. It's very easily configured through a GUI interface. So again, you don't need to be a data engineer to configure this. But this will perform any action that you want based on any patterns in your data. That could be as simple as executing another ETL process, or it could be, making a call against an external API and ordering that product and sending it into your warehouse.
I have one quick question here. So I think everything is great, right? If I ask you to map the existing products in these personas or whatever you want to call them, so Power BI is mapped to the Power BI, no changes, right? Obviously, the storage has been changed. We'll talk about it later, and I'm not ruining the excitement, right? And then Data Factory has been mapped to the ADF and the data pipelines, and
there is a slight change in there. So Data Factory, the standalone Azure Data Factory is pipelines and mapping data flows. Data Factory within Fabric has the same pipelines, but all the same connectors and everything. Well, there will be all the same connectors, but obviously this is still in preview, so we're migrating the connectors into it. But the data flows are actually based on the data flows from Parbi.
Okay.
So they're very, very simple GUI, transformations. You don't need to be able to write any code or anything. But again, mature. It's been around. It's got thousands upon thousands of users within the Power BI platform.
Okay, so which persona you want to start with? Which is the closest to you? Which persona is closest to you?
That's a great question. My dissertation in university was the comparison between Kimball and Inman data warehousing methodology. So I'd probably be a data warehouse guy myself. So we could start there. First of all, what we've got to do is find the right workspace. So,
and what is workspace?
This is important.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, within Power BI, you've got workspaces. But I'll come to this a little bit later. But Fabric is designed for to enable a distribution within an organization to move towards that kind of nirvana of a data mesh, where you've got the distributed teams, you've got distributed ownership of your data, you've got distributed budgets, and you want to be able to manage your own priorities and requirements. So it's designed to enable that through the concepts of domains and workspaces. Now I'm just here in our internal Power BI tenant here. So I'm not the owner here, but I've got a few of my own workspaces. Here is a warehouse. Now, when you're in a workspace, you can, I don't have many assets in this specific workspace, but you can filter the types of results that you want to find there. It's very easy to find, your warehouses or your data pipelines, for example. This is a warehouse.
So Ian, I think let me ask a question, right? So workspace is kind of a container for all your resources in a very simpler way.
That's right. Yeah. So a workspace is a space to it's a container, but it's a space to collaborate. It's a space to group solutions. So you could have a workspace for one person. Like, for example, this is my own workspace here. This that allows you to sandbox, prototype solutions, that sort of stuff. You could also have a shared workspace for a team or for a specific project. You could have workspaces that contain data products that are used across your entire organization. So a workspace can be used in several, as a personal space, but also a collaborative space, or also a kind of a deployment environment for production enterprise solutions. Yeah.
And workspace should be the starting point for any development, if I'm not wrong. Like, you should create the workspace first and then you move ahead, right? This is how it works, or how it is?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, a workspace is fundamental. I mean, it's like, you can't deploy a SQL database without having a SQL server. You know what I mean? It is that sort of a container. It needs to be there. When it comes to capacity, your how you pay for it ultimately, you assign capacity to the workspace. And this, going back to how this is simple, you don't have to think about different billing and different vendors and all of that sort of stuff. You assign compute to capacity. So you buy Fabric capacity. That gives you access to all of those compute options that we were showing. All of the personas, all the compute options. You get warehouse, you get Lakehouse, you get data science, you get everything with that one capacity. You then assign that capacity to a workspace, or you can share that capacity over a number of workspaces.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, cool.
So you can, so if you have a mission critical analytics solution, you can give it its own capacity, own dedicated capacity, so nobody else can consume any of that. But again,
we will be covering the capacity if we get time today, right? Okay, so let's go for the warehouse and let's see.
So in here, then this is a warehouse. So like if you're familiar with SQL Server, Synapse, or whatever, it's the same sort of breakdown. You'll be familiar with this. You got your database schemas, DBO and so on. I haven't created any custom schemas there. And then you've got your tables, views, functions, stored procedures. So it's everything you'd be familiar with from any database platform. What is new here in comparison to Synapse data warehousing is that within Synapse, you've got a single dedicated SQL pool and a single built-in or serverless pool within a workspace, which means you're kind of limited to having that enterprise data warehouse dedicated pool. But here you can have as many warehouses as you want. There's no limit. That sounds scary to some people because you don't want to encourage data swamp or things go a little bit crazy. So to that point, you can reuse assets across warehouses. So instead of just sharing, I mean, instead of having a single, instead of having loads and loads of warehouses where you have to keep copying the same data across, you can master that data once and reuse it in as many warehouses and lakehouses as you want. I think it might be kind of limited because of the workspace I've chose there, but I can show you an example when we go to Lakehouse, how you can access all of these various warehouses at Lakehouse.
Okay, so one quick question here, right?
Yep.
So first thing is how to create a warehouse. So when we are creating a warehouse, we give a name to the warehouse and everything behind the scene has been automatically set it up. No compute allocation, nothing, right?
So we'll go to create here. Let's create a warehouse. Here's data warehouse. Just click in here and UDW. Think about how, if you want to create a new Exadata data warehouse, for example, how long is that going to take you?
It will take a lot of time, So
it could take you months because you're going to have to go and go through the license negotiations with Oracle first of all. But this is it. We're creating a data warehouse.
What is going on right now? So it is literally creating a warehouse for us.
Yep. So in the background, what this is doing is creating a new. So ultimately, the back end of all of this is open standard ADLS Gen 2. It's a data lake. What this is doing in the background is creating a folder structure that's abstracted from you, which is based on warehouse name, schema name, object name. And that's it. There we've got a new warehouse. We can start building new tables. We can use SQL. So create table, new dimension. I probably need to give it at least one field.
Yeah. But okay, no, it totally makes sense, right? So basically what it is doing, it did when you give that new data warehouse, it just created a folder structure behind the scene for us, right?
Okay, that's right. You can see the table is appearing down here. You can also see the queries are being saved down here. You can give them names and collaborate. So if you think about traditional data warehouse or databases, you've got store procedures and functions to store logic in, and you still have those here obviously as well, but you can actually, you've got this query space here where you can share and collaborate on queries. So if you've got useful scripts and whatever, you can save them here instead of saving them in files. Back to my point there about sharing objects. So now we've got a new data warehouse. You can actually then link in the existing data warehouse that we saw a moment ago, and leverage any of the objects within that one.
That's great.
For some reason it's grayed out there.
Yeah, but yeah, it's what you're saying that if we want to import or if we want to integrate worldwide import a warehouse, it's just a click and we can see the tables, stored procs and everything there.
Exactly. So let's say, for example, your marketing department, they own the definition of a customer. Just as an example, so let's say they've got a single customer view solution or something like that. So they've got a customer dimension there, and then your sales department want to leverage that definition of a customer to go and hit them with a campaign. So the sales department don't need to copy that data across and then figure out some way of keeping that data synced with the master copy owned by the marketing team, they don't need to replicate the ETL logic to define that customer. All they need to do is just create a link to that marketing-owned warehouse and join that customer dimension into their own one and use it as a first-party object within that sales data warehouse.
And without any data movement.
It's never copied. It's just the one copy of data. Mastered once and shared as many times as you need across lakehouses and warehouses.
Okay, so now let me jump. What exactly is the storage format here? Because I know that in traditional warehouses, the storage format is binary, and it's very proprietary to the the Microsoft, right? So what is going on behind the scene now?
So if you think about any data, okay, so there's a big, okay, there's, think about any sort of data, RDBMS, Oracle, Teradata, SQL Server, whatever that is. Ultimately, they all have their own proprietary storage format underneath. It's usually abstracted from the from users, but ultimately it's all there. You can define your own partition strategies and row group size and everything, so it's being written into a proprietary file type that you can't read unless you go through the endpoints provided by that platform. With the introduction of Hadoop about, I don't know, was that maybe nearly 15 years ago now, there was a move towards, feeling a little bit old, there was a move towards kind of trying to build open standards and, build platforms that are more flexible. You can bring your own compute to and everything, and they're built on kind of open file format. So that then, Hive was the component within Hadoop that was supposedly going to be the data warehouse version of Hadoop. But it never provided the same level of performance because you've got loads of partitioned files in hierarchical folders and joining all that information, filtering it and presenting it to end users. You have a latency there that you could never challenge the performance of an RDBMS. So this is, this is the, so that was, back then people were using CSV, ORC, Avro, JSON file types. This has progressed a lot since then now. Now you've got file types like, let me just, okay, while I'm talking through this, I'll open up a slide so I can.
Yeah, and I think I like that. I love that slide which you're gonna be presenting, because I think that's the heart of Fabric, storage and computation, that okay, how different personas and the computing frameworks are using the same one copy, right? That's what we are discussing now.
That's exactly it. Here we go. Share. Share button again. Okay. So I'm assuming that this is the slide, or maybe the leading slide before the one that you were thinking of. So just to step back a little bit, traditional analytics platform, you would have multiple source databases, all with their own proprietary storage formats. You would extract the data out of each of those to land them into maybe a data lake where you could open storage formats, and you would bring in new use cases, data science, whatever. This is what we call modern data warehouse. You would then go through a medallion type architecture, bronze, silver, and gold, or raw, cleansed, curated, whatever you want to call those layers. And then you would ingest your data into a data warehouse to provide that low latency, high concurrency that you struggled with because of the file system that you were reading from in the data lake. So you'd copy that data from the gold layer into a data warehouse. Then you would copy that data again into your reporting platform. So let's say it's Power BI or Tableau or whatever, you would ingest that data again, and then, you would then apply a semantic layer within that BI layer. So you set friendly names, you define hierarchies to drill up and down through, you define business calculations and KPIs that can't be written at the row level within your data warehouse. So there are genuine reasons to have these various layers, but ultimately you're copying the same data from a data lake into a data warehouse into a BI layer. There's a cost to each one of those platforms. That proprietary storage is expensive, especially when it comes to MPP platforms. You're distributing it loads of times. There's the cost of processing it between each of those layers. There's then separate security models on each of these layers, and there's the various teams that need to make sure that security models are kept in sync across these various layers. So there's, layer upon layer of complexity and admin and cost to that movement of data across those various layers.
Okay.
Within Fabric, we're bringing the concept of one lake. One lake means you don't need to move that data around anymore. You can meet your data science, data engineering requirements, plus your low latency, high concurrency, high performance requirements for your warehouse, plus your speed of thought semantic layer from a BI tool, all from the same location. And this really is the game changer.
But isn't it the same data lake? Like, what has been changed? Because this, even when we move pre-Fabric, Data Factory can write data to the, let's say, called ADLS in blob storage. What is going to change here then?
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, like we were saying, based on mature products, one lake is based on ADLS Gen 2, so you get all of the optimizations and everything for analytics that you get with ADLS Gen 2, but it's abstracted and it's simplified. So you get all the performance benefits of an ADLS Gen 2. Now, if you think, going back to my examples there of the marketing department and the customer, defining the single view of the customer. Mm-hmm. This is an example here. So you've got Customer 360, mm-hmm. A solution built between an ETL tool and some data engineers using Spark. Okay. Then you've got a finance data warehouse. So typical to have a finance data warehouse. I've worked on them many times before Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And those people preferring to use TSQL. Then you've got your real-time analytics coming from telemetry systems around your organization, and you're reading that with KQL. And traditionally these are all separate. Mm-hmm. Now they all sit in one lake, and and obviously analysis services and that semantic layer is discussing. Even Power BI, it has its own in import mode, its own proprietary storage format. So mm-hmm. We're even guilty of that as well. But within Fabric, we're standardizing on Parquet and the Delta flavor of Parquet, which is introduced by Databricks. It is fantastic. So just to describe these a little bit more, make sure everybody understands what these are. Mm. Parquet is a file type that is already compressed. There's a high level of compression in Parquet, mm-hmm. and it's self-defining. So it's unlike a CSV. You maintain your data types from your source system. So you get your ints and strings and everything else. So everything they're strictly typed. Delta then provides optimizations over that. So with Delta, you then get similar to indexing, you get like min and max values, you get sort orders, so you can sort the rows within your Delta files to optimize for how you're going to extract that data. So you get query performance optimizations there as well. These are open source file types. So any modern analytics tool or data science tool can read these formats. So we're getting rid of our proprietary storage. There's no more proprietary storage behind TSQL, like in a dedicated SQL pool or in SQL Server. And there's no more proprietary storage for, obviously the import mode still exists in Power BI if you're not using Fabric. You can still use that. But if you're using Fabric, you don't need to import the data into Power BI anymore. You can just point it to this. Now, that doesn't sound any different really to the current way you've got it, direct query mode within Power BI. So that reads, Parquet files, Delta files, or whatever, it reads data from wherever it sits, CSV, but there are performance challenges with that. So let me just
I think Ian, let me ask you one question in the previous slide or no slides, right? So basically what Fabric has changed that, whatever the processing framework is, they will be storing data in one lake. That's the first thing. So every processing framework will store data in one lake, first thing. The second thing is the data will always be stored in Delta Parquet format. And once the data is stored, whether it's through T-SQL, through Spark, through Custo, or through Power BI, Since it is stored in Delta Parquet, the data which has been stored and processed by Spark can be used by SQL, can be used by
Exactly.
Power BI. And this is the game changer, right?
That's exactly it.
And what is going on traditionally is whenever the data is stored through your SQL data warehouse, it is in proprietary format. If it is stored through Power Query, it is through proprietary format. So they have changed it. So anybody can, any processing framework can store it in the same format, and any other processing framework can use it in the same format. And that's what the game changer, if I'm not wrong, right?
Absolutely right. That's it. There's more to it, and we'll come to that now. But yeah, I mean just the fact that you need those proprietary formats mean that you need to keep moving and copying data and replicating it around your organization, and ultimately that's the problem with analytics. That's why you have to have multiple platforms all plugged in together and keep moving that data around.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, when you write data into a proprietary format for an RDBMS, there are optimizations you get with that provides that performance gain that people have struggled to get from a file system. Same with Power BI. If you use the import mode in Power BI, you optimize when you import it. You optimize it for Power BI. This is where the secret sauce is now. So I'll share another slide.
Before you sharing one slide, right? You haven't told me how to create the one lake.
We'll come back to that.
Okay.
We'll finish on this topic first, and then we'll come back to that.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the Power BI options currently that you'll be familiar with. Import mode is the optimal mode within Power BI. It gives you that speed of thought performance. It gives you, it gives you the best experience within Power BI, but it requires you to schedule a number of processing or ingestions of that data. And most organizations will do it once a day, and usually overnight. If you do it, you can do it multiple times a day, but you then need to think about the separation of querying and processing. So you can then set up like scale out. So you have architecture, so you have processing and query nodes and everything. And there's more and more complexity and cost to that. There's also the challenge that within Power BI, the cost is mostly driven by the size of your data set. So if you've got large amounts of data, it's going to be expensive to import it all into Power BI. You've also got limits to the size of those data sets. So top of my head, I think it might be 300 gig or something like that. They're highly compressed about 10 times. So ultimately that'll probably be about 3 terabytes of data. But if you've got huge amounts of data, again, you might end up with multiple data sets in Power BI as well. So there are those limitations. You're never going to have real-time data in import mode. So there's direct query mode to try and work around those two issues, the size and the latency. So direct query mode pushes queries down to the underlying platforms. So as the data changes in those underlying platforms, you can see the changes immediately in Power BI. So you get real-time data. You're also not ingesting data, so you are not restricted by the size of those data sets. But you are totally dependent on the performance of the underlying systems.
Yeah.
The query language in Power BI is DAX. So you write a DAX query, or the dashboard creates DAX queries behind your visualizations. Those DAX queries then get translated into PLSQL or whatever it is. If you're running against Oracle, or and it retrieves data, and then it joins data and filters it and brings it back into Power BI and presents it. So there's a performance challenge there.
Yeah.
So neither of these options there's a compromise to each one of them. What we're doing in Fabric is introducing direct lake mode. It doesn't sound a lot different to direct query mode, but what happens is, when you write data into Fabric, you write it in as Parquet Delta. So you get all of the optimizations of that.
Mm-hmm.
We then apply the optimizations of an imported model in Power BI to OneLake.
What does it mean in simple terms?
So, okay, so the history of this is we bought probably back in 2008 or 2009 or something. We bought a technology called a VeriPack compression engine.
Okay.
That was introduced to the public as Power View in Excel. And then it became the tabular model in analysis services, and then it became Power BI.
Okay.
So that is the history of Power BI, the VeriPack compression engine. It achieves incredible levels of compression. But then we also apply Power BI optimizations above that. We're getting rid of the proprietary storage that sits below Power BI, but we're maintaining the VeriPack optimizations, and we're applying those to the open standard Parquet and Delta formats. So the difference here is you benefit from all the Parquet and Delta optimizations, but you also benefit from the increased compression ratio that VeriPack brings you, while maintaining the open standard. So any other tool can still read those files and still benefit from that extra compression. But then we're also applying multi-layers of caching and everything, all of the optimizations that you expect with Power BI. So if you think about that traditional architecture, data lake, data warehouse, imported cached data model in a visualization tool, the best performance is always that imported cached data. Do you now get that from the data lake?
Okay.
Which means as long as you've got a TSQL endpoint for that data lake, you also get all your data warehousing capabilities from it too. You're not affected by any size limits, because this is a data lake at the end of the day. You can store petabytes of data in there. There's no limit to it. And as that data changes, you will see those changes immediately in your reports. So you get the benefits, the speed, the semantic layer, and everything from that imported mode. But you get your real-time data, you get limitless scale, cost optimizations, because you don't need to think about those huge imported data sets in Power BI anymore. This is just a game changer. This is one copy landed into your data lake. It can be a data warehouse. It can be a lakehouse. It can be your source for data science. It can also be your cached data model for BI.
Yeah, and let me ask you one more question here, right? And my question might not be correct question, but let me ask it, right? So in the third mode, that's direct lake mode, there is no data conversion taking place. Obviously, there is no data copying taking place, but there's no data conversion, because right now what you are saying that, okay, in OneLake, it is in Parquet Delta. The DAX queries are in VertiPack, but since we are bringing Delta Lake Parquet format plus VertiPack, so when we see that scan, it's just like real time, no data movement, no data conversion taking place. And that's why it's near to real time, is it?
That's right. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Once you write data with Fabric components, it's very simple. Let me see if I can find a workbook that shows the example now. In the Lakehouse, we can actually have a look at Lakehouse at the same time. Workspace.
So obviously you will be discussing Lakehouse. Storage behind every persona or every experience is Lakehouse, is it?
Well, I mean, look, say the storage behind them all is OneLake. Let's put it that way. But within Fabric, you've got the choice of using a lakehouse or a warehouse. And the difference really is your preference for your coding preference. If your preference is to use Spark, then you choose the Lakehouse experience. If your preference is to use TSQL for writing the data, then you use the warehouse experience.
Okay.
So with Lakehouse, it's read and write with Spark. And read only with TSQL. Okay. You still have the option of using TSQL for querying a Lakehouse. Of course, you can use Spark SQL for read and write as well. So anything Spark is read or write for a Lakehouse. And then within a warehouse, it's read or write with TSQL and read only with Spark.
Okay.
That's the only difference. It just comes down to your preference of the language and technology you want to use to read and write the data. But ultimately, they're stored the same. The underlying storage is one lake. It is Delta. It is, you can still point your Power BI reports directly to them. So ultimately, the back end is exactly the same. When you choose a Lakehouse or your warehouse, it purely comes down to preference of whether you want to use Spark to read or write, or TSQL to read or write.
Okay, and since you are in the portal, do we need to create one lake, or like how it works?
No, one lake is just provisioned out of the box. Once you click turn on Fabric, you get one lake. That's it. You don't need to, like it.
Okay, and if I want to create multiple one lakes, then?
Well, I mean, think about it in the sense of it's not the same as if you go in, if you want to create a data lake in Azure with ADLS Gen 2, you go through the Azure portal, you choose ADLS Gen. You don't actually choose ADLS Gen 2. You look for a storage account. When you choose a storage account, you choose the storage type. Is it blob storage? Is it a data lake storage? Or is it a file share or whatever? You choose your subscription to deploy it to. You choose your region. You choose the kind of level of performance. Is this premium? Is it archive or whatever? You choose your level of resilience. Use the local redundancy or zone or region. Geo redundancy. You have to choose a bunch of different configurations before you deploy a storage account. Within that storage account, then you have multiple containers. Within each container, you've got folder structures. You then need to think about role-based access control across all of that. And then at the file and folder level, you start applying ACLs, access control lists. Deploying, and then you could have multiple of these across your organizations. You need to think about how to join them all together.
Yeah.
This is the typical way of building data lakes across your organization in a kind of distributed fashion. It's, if you don't know the answers to all these questions, you're going to be binging each one of these questions, and it could be a while before you deploy your data lake.
Yeah.
Within Fabric, once you turn it on, it's all there. You don't need to think about it again. Your storage is there. Once you create a warehouse or a lakehouse, it automatically creates the file structure underneath it. You don't ever need to go and configure any of that.
And that's why there can be only one lake for each Fabric tenant. Is it?
Well, that's the point. That's the point.
Okay.
I mean, within one lake, you can have any number of conceptual data lakes or lake houses. They can all be secured separately, so you make sure that people can access only what is appropriate to them. But once you create a lake house, so we're looking at a lake house here. But if I just go to create lake house, again, like creating a data warehouse, you just go in here and click new, create. Within a few seconds, you've got a new lakehouse. Within that, you get folder structures provisioned for you. You don't have to go and configure them. There's two areas within your lakehouse. One is the managed area, and then one is the kind of unmanaged area.
Okay.
The managed area is where you have tables, managed tables. So these present themselves like database assets. And within the file area, you can put any data you want. At the end of the day, this is a data lake, so you can store images or whatever you want, CSVs or whatever. I'll just step back to my other lake house here where you can see this a bit better. So if we just filter this list by Lakehouse, there we go. Again, worldwide importers. So you can see in here, it's separated by tables. These are structured tables, like any table in a database. And you got your file area. Within your file area, you got folder structures. This is like any storage account. So here you can see the dimensions. And these are imported in Parquet files. These could be CSVs, they could be text files, it could be anything you want. That's just like a normal data lake. It's a hierarchical file structure.
Yeah.
You got it full separate here. It's separated by file, full dimensions and incremental data. And then you've got your structured, managed area here where you got SQL tables. it's as simple as that. You can open notebooks. You can, by default, there's a Power BI data set for every single asset or object within OneLake. So without even configuring a Power BI data set, there's a data set created for every object in here. So you can very quickly build reports on all of this. You'll see up in the top right-hand corner, you've got Lakehouse and SQL endpoint. So Lakehouse is when you want to, they're both within the same Lakehouse, but it's just the way you use it. So as I was saying, with Lakehouse, it's read and write in Spark. So you've got the notebook options here, create, open or existing or create a new notebook. But then if we switch to the SQL endpoint, it then looks like a data warehouse. And, this is TSQL. It's read only with a Lakehouse, but you can query any of these using your favorite, Transact SQL language. And again, you can see new reports, new measures. How much time we've got left? This is quite a special feature. Being able to create measures, like I was saying earlier, the semantic layer from your reporting layer, from reporting tool, that can now be written down to your Lakehouse on your warehouse and shared across any other data science or analytics tools. So you can create that semantic layer, measures, DAX measures, so they can be accessed outside of Power BI.
That's great. So once you create a new measure, the data will be stored again in the Delta Parquet format, and it will be used with any other processing framework, right?
That's right. It's some of these measures are calculated in real time, because they are based on, they're not written at the row level. But this is the point. This is why you couldn't store them in a data lake, and this is why you can't store them in a data warehouse, because you can't write them. And this is why they'd usually only be defined in the reporting layer. And if you think about, if you've got, multiple reporting tools or, multiple data models within the same technology, you still have to copy the logic for those calculations across each one of those. So keeping those in sync is always a challenge. But again, you can define those business KPIs once and reuse them now with any tool.
Yeah, and obviously we have discussed a lot about warehouse, Lakehouse. I need to know how to bring data here then.
Very simple.
Okay.
So we're in a Lakehouse. I mean, so there are multiple ways to bring data in. But if you're just experimenting here or something, click on Get Data. It can be as simple as uploading some files from your laptop. If you've got some CSVs, you've got some master data, whatever, you can just upload files very simply like that. You've got the pipelines and data flows that we were describing earlier. I'll show those in a moment. This is a new feature. This is a game changer as well. New shortcut. So,
the
reality in an organization is that you've got data spread out everywhere. Anyway, already do. And when you've got an analytics platform, people try to convince you to move your data into that analytics platform. We're not doing that here. So you could have other OneLakes, other tenants around your organization. You can link into those. Likelihood is that you'll have lots of storage accounts, data lakes already built using, Databricks or, Synapse or whatever. You can connect to those. You can, using a shortcut into AD Gen 2. When you use a shortcut, you don't move the data. And this is the point here. It's a shortcut. That data continues to live where it is. You're not bringing that data into OneLake, but you're bringing all of the Fabric capabilities to that data, wherever it lives. So that means you can write Power BI optimized data to an external AD Gen 2 account. It's a bit of a game changer.
Is it same as linked service, or is it different?
It is different. It is different. A linked service in Synapse is a kind of a stored definition of a connection that you can share them and repeat the uses of them across multiple pipelines and everything. But ultimately, you still need to copy the data into, you need to still move that data around to work on it. Within a shortcut, you can read or write data using Fabric, so you can leverage all the capabilities of Fabric on external storage. without moving it at all.
Okay.
And it's not just limited to Azure technology either. As you can see here, if your data lives in an S3 bucket in AWS, you can bring all of the Fabric capabilities to that data without moving it. And we've got more in the pipeline there. And we've also got the Dataverse, you know, so all of the kind of automation between Dynamics and, you know, the Power Platform and everything. You can also connect to all of that directly through here as well.
I really like this, the third one, Dataverse. And it will be a game changer, you know, because a lot of people, Microsoft Dynamics is such a famous product. And to bring that Fabric capability, processing power to Dynamics in Dataverse, gonna be game changer. People will love it.
Again, it's about just joining all of these disparate systems into one coherent platform. That's what it's about, you know, just making it simple.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So data movement, data copying is not taking place only one copy. So even with external clouds platforms, we are believing in one copy. Is it?
Absolutely. Yep.
That's cool.
So I mean, look, you could be an organization with data sovereignty requirements. You know, data needs to live in a specific region. You know, but you want to use Fabric and you want to have consolidated reporting on top of it. You know, you can create a shortcut. You can query that data alongside your data that lives in one lake, and you can present it all through one Power BI report.
And let's say I have a small file into my desktop. And I want to move that file into Lakehouse.
That's a great question.
Okay.
That is a great question.
And I don't want to write any code. I don't want to write the copy pipeline. How to do it?
This is a great question. Like if you think traditionally, a non-technical user would have to put in a request to the engineering team to say, I've got some master data in a CSV or an Excel file. Can you please integrate that with the data in the data warehouse? And you put that request into your agile process. It gets prioritized, or, you know, for several, you know, sprints away, and then you get a highly skilled and highly paid engineer to upload that data and join it to the rest of your dimensions. And, you know, a month or two later, that business person gets an answer back, hey, it's done. Now can you go and use it? And then that business person says, oh, hang on, some of those values have changed since then. Can I update that? And then, you know what I mean? It's a difficult long-term process. This is highly simplified. You're probably familiar with OneDrive, for data. I mean, for the OneDrive, just for storing your photos or whatever it is, you know. I'll show you my Windows Explorer. Within Windows Explorer here, you can see, I'm not going to click on it because there might be some sensitive information in here, but my Microsoft, my work OneDrive, my personal OneDrive. You've got your local assets. Then you can see down here one lake.
It looks like OneDrive to me, isn't it?
It looks just like OneDrive. It's integrated into Explorer, and you'll probably recognize the name of that workspace I was in a moment ago. IC Trident, like Lakehouse tutorial. If I click in there, you see the various lake houses and warehouses that you saw in the Fabric. So there's the new DW I just created a moment ago, for example. If I click in here to our worldwide importers, Lakehouse, you can see that separation of tables and files that we saw a moment ago. We go into tables, and you'll see the dimensions and facts we saw a moment ago. Can't remember exactly which dimension we were clicking into, but if I click in there, you can see the Parquet file. So, like I was saying, the Lakehouse, it's a data lake in the back end. If we go into the file section, we can see that raw, full and incremental folders. This is exactly the representation you just saw through Fabric. But you can just open it through Explorer. So if you want to upload data, that Excel or CSV file with your master data, you can do it yourself. You can just go in here, put it into a folder. It's immediately accessible by all of the processing within Fabric, Power BI reports, anything pointing out to it.
Isn't it the same that if I'm a non-technical user and I'm uploading my photographs to the OneDrive just for the sake of the cloud storage, it's the same, right?
It's exactly the same. As long as you got permissions to read and write to that location, you can just copy a file in there. You know,
that's great.
it's as simple as that. It's just amazing. You know, the barrier to entry here is lowered.
Yeah.
And you know, you don't have that multi-month process to go through to get your data changed. You know, you can just go and do it yourself. Obviously, this is, you know, highly secured as well. So you need to have permissions to read and write to that area to be able to see it, or to be able to read it or add and remove data from it. You know, so it can be completely locked down to make sure that it's fully controlled. But again, it's just I mean, the whole point of an open standard file system, it should be accessible to everybody. It is.
Yeah, and I think Ian, we have covered Lakehouse, warehouse. You have covered Power Direct Query a bit. I think, see, we can talk about it for hours and hours. And we are just, because I don't want to stress this video. What is the last component? Obviously, we will be doing this series for deep dive in all the components. What's the last component which you want to show?
The last component that
I will ask you to show me the data activator.
Yes, I was just clicking on that one. So, yeah, look, I mean, as you said, it's impossible to cover every topic completely in this amount of time on one, one call. But yeah, so this is the tool I mentioned earlier that closes the loop on analytic systems and performs actions based on patterns in your data. As I said, it's based on a tool that we call Reflex, but the experience of data activator.
Okay.
And it comes with you can load pre-baked model samples here as well to get an idea. But this is completely point and click GUI tooling. So you don't need, again, to have years of experience of writing Scala or something like that to be able to perform an action on streaming data. You could have data flying in from IoT devices on your factory floor, or you could have data coming from any different sources and landing in here. And as a business user, you can go in here and create various triggers and actions on those triggers.
Okay.
So here, for example, package delivery failed. The action defined here is to send an email. It could be a Teams message. This is grayed out at the moment, but what's coming in here is the integration into the Power Platform. So anything the Power Platform can do could be an activity. And that can include calling any sort of API. And then we're also going to introduce custom activities as well here. So, at a very high and simple level, I want to be notified when a package delivery has failed. It's as simple as coming in here, defining the triggers within your data. You've got all of your fields. You're looking for delivery attempt, delivery status, and when that package is delivery failed happens, then you set up this email. You got your subject line, headline, any additional information. You can parameterize all of this as well, and it sends you the email. So it's failed. It could be a Teams message. You could send it to a whole Teams channel, so you could have lots of people watching this in real time. And it just means that you don't have to wait for somebody to act on a change in the data. Once that in real time, once that scenario happens, you can actually, take, the correct action, a defined correct action on that data in real time.
So basically, let me understand it from very non-technical point of view, right? So you have a lot of streaming data coming to the Reflex or the data activator. If any triggers matches its condition and you want to perform some action, you can do it without even writing a single line of code.
That's right. That's
right?
it.
And
Exactly.
the
It's as
action, the
simple as
action
that.
can be email, the action can be Teams message or any custom message or any custom activity, right? Okay, cool.
That's right.
Obviously, this is the most interesting bit what people gonna be liking, because I think to do it in ADF, you will need to write a lot of activities. You need to write the web, REST API, and all those stuff, because I've done it in my past. Just to write an failure email, custom failure email to the team, you need to do a lot of drag and drop.
But
And yeah.
exactly. Ultimately, what is analytics for? It's, you know, it's for recognizing what's happening in your organization. And
Yeah.
once you know what's happening in your organization, what do you do with that information? You perform an action. You know, ultimately, that's what analytics is for.
Yeah.
And this just automates it from end to end.
That's great. But how, and see, we don't have time, but how to bring data here and what is behind it? Like, is it stream analytics? It is, what is going on behind it?
Within Data Activator, you mean, or
Yeah, in
within
data
Fabric?
activator.
Okay. So I mean, this is So I mean, this can be you know, you can be looking at the actual data within one lake, or you can be looking at event streams, which is, like I mentioned earlier, based on it's a SaaSified version of event hubs. So that could be coming off Kafka queues or anything. You know, you could have, like I was saying, it could be streaming data from your devices around the factory floor. It could be, you know, but it could be just looking at sales data. You know, it was like, oh, we've hit a target, or, oh, you know what I mean? Let's send an email to the team and congratulate them. You know, it could be, you know, it could be anything. It could be anything. Anything within, anything that can Fabric can see, you can set a trigger on this.
Yeah, that's great. One last thing for today's video, which I really wanted to cover, is the capacity units. If you want to just shed some light on it, you know, what exactly is going on, that when you say that, okay, everything is unified, there is only one capacity unit and it has been shared across the workspace, different experience personas, what exactly it is?
Okay, so I will give a little disclaimer. Ignite is going, I think Ignite is 15th, 16th of November. That is when there will be a lot of announcements about
the costing,
about Fabric, and so please tune into that. We should probably put the link to Ignite in on this video, but and the pricing will be finalized in line with Ignite. So I'm not going to go into the details. We'll maybe do another session on deep dive on sessions on pricing and capacities and everything after Ignite. But in the meantime, what I will tell you is, let me just find a right slide for this.
So basically,
awkward switching of screens.
So many screens.
This is my problem. It's productive when I'm doing my work. It's not as quick when I'm sharing my screen. So we've got universal compute. As I was saying, the point is simplifying all of this, not having multiple bills. You know, when you create a workspace, you assign a capacity to that workspace. It can be shared across workspaces. It can be dedicated to a single workspace, whatever you want. That same set of compute capacity can be used for anything within Fabric. If you think about that traditional architecture where you've got your ETL system, you've got your data warehouse, you've got your reporting tools. Overnight, you use your ETL system, could be Informatica, to process your data. During the daytime, you may not be using Informatica, so you got that hardware, you got that Informatica license, you know, that you're paying for, you know, but not using. Then you've got your reporting platform to use during the day. You could be paying for that at night when you're not using it. The point here is that is one bill, and you consume that capacity with any capabilities within Fabric. And while you're not using them, you don't pay for them. You know what I mean? So this is completely serverless. You could use Data Factory there to process your data overnight. You consume your Fabric capacity while using Data Factory. Then during the daytime, you could have people running reports against your data warehouse or using Power BI visualizations. And again, you consume your capacity when they are used. And when they're not used, they don't consume any of your capacity.
Wow.
And it's as simple as that. One bill, serverless, shared capacity.
Okay, and what we are calling it, fabric unit, something?
Fabric capacity unit. So yeah, so I mean, let me just, I can share a web page and we can share this link as well. This is on our online documentation, but if you're familiar with Power BI, you've got, your Power BI SKUs. These are all being, Fabric, Power BI, it's the same thing now.
Okay.
So they are being mapped over to Fabric capacity units, CUs. So you can see in this table here, the entry level to Power BI is a P1. That is now mapped to an F64, 64 capacity units in Fabric.
Okay.
With Fabric now, we're introducing more SKUs, so more, granular points, and this means that you've got more flexibility around the way that you assign that capacity. It doesn't have to jump from 64 to 128 to 256. You know what I mean? You've got all the way down to 248. So you can have dev test environments running on smaller capacities, for example. You could have sandboxes and prototype workspaces on small capacities, and then you could have your, mission critical systems on large capacities. It's completely flexible how you set this up.
That's great. I think we will be doing a next video on, especially on capacity, because I think after Ignite, like after 1 month or so, you will be able to tell us exactly what and how it will cost. And I think there is costing available as of now as well, for a month, for per hour, for F2 to F2048, but that's not very clear. But I think it will be.
I mean, look, listen, we're still in preview. Everything's subject to change. There is pricing guidance out there, and if you want to go and read it, that's fine. What I would, but Ignite is when everything actually is solidified, and so
That's great.
rather than spending time on that right now, I'd rather wait until then. But what I will say is that between now and then, and actually for 60 days after a GA, Fabric's free.
Okay, and we haven't covered it, but how to start a free Fabric? So just app.powerbi.com and go for the Fabric trial. It's as simple as that, right?
So if you're in your Power BI, tenant, you just go up to here and you enable free trial. It's as simple as that. I've done that a while ago. I did that several months ago. It's a 60-day free trial, and as you can see, it still says 59 days left. It kind of bounces between about 56 and 60. It never counted below that. But what will happen at GA is that countdown will start for real. So 60 days post GA, it will still be free. The only limitations are the amount of data you can put into it is limited to 1 terabyte, and the reason for that is I think we've got nearly 500,000 Power BI tenants around the world, and if everybody puts in a petabyte each, we will struggle for capacity. So we have to put a limit on this somewhere. But obviously, any of those compute options, any of those capabilities within Fabric are immediately available to you. You can start playing with them all. Get familiar with it, enjoy that integrated experience. Bring all your personas, bring your data scientists, your engineers, your business users. Have them all try it out and see, how they can leverage this platform and, become, first-party data native. I don't know what to call it. You know what I mean? Be a truly data-driven organization. Every person in your organization is engaging with your data.
Yeah. See, Ian, I think I haven't realized that you have been talking for the last 90 minutes.
It's easy to do that.
I'm feeling that we haven't covered anything. It's just the tip of the iceberg, what we say, right? If we deep dive, we can have this video for hours and hours, but that's not what I want. I will want a separate video on each of the persona so that, people can really touch and feel it, right? But, before we wrap up this collaboration video, I really want to extend my heartfelt thank you to you, and your expertise and insight have truly enriched the understanding of fabric. And I think before we start this video, I always want this to be as simple as it could be. I want that people who don't even know bit about Microsoft platform can make sense once they see this video that what fabric is, right? Uh, and I think we try to keep this video at that level. But again, I want to thank you for taking out the time, and I know you're busy, but taking out 1 hour, 2 hour for us and share that knowledge. It's very insightful. Thank you, Ian.
No, thank you for letting me bring me on here. It's been, I mean, look, it's an exciting topic to talk about, and it's very easy to talk about this forever. But you know, thank you to Microsoft. Thank you to the engineering team for this incredible vision, bringing this product to the market. You know, everybody's so excited about AI, but it's rubbish in, rubbish out. If you don't get your platform right, it's you know, this is where it's at. This is where it's at.
Yeah. So you know, all the people who are watching this video, I'm hoping that you will find all about fabric in the most simplified way, and that's what me and Ian were, you know, trying to do. But please leave comments, ask any questions. This is just one of the many videos of this series. So I will be creating these videos with Ian. So ask as many questions as you guys want, and please share, subscribe, and like the video. Thanks a lot for being here, and thank you, Ian.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, so I've stopped the video.